right, everyone. Good morning. Today we will be continuing the second day of our agenda for the November Gaming Control Board meeting, and we will be covering restricted agenda items and casino player dispute appeals. Madam Secretary, let's please proceed with the items on our restricted consent agenda. There were no issues or questions with these items, and no appearances were required.
Items on consent this morning are restricted number 1, which is the request to withdraw the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Rand AV Convenience Store for restricted gaming license. For the record, the agenda shows Rand RV in error. It should be Rand AV. Restricted number 2 is the request to withdraw the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Las Vegas Dollar Plus for a restricted gaming license. Restricted number 3 is the application of Bouquet Inc. doing business as Circle K number 2652001 for a restricted gaming license. Restricted 6 is the application of Nevada Restaurant Services Inc. doing business as Dottie's 194 for a restricted gaming license. Restricted 8 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies doing business at 7-Eleven store number 18565 for a restricted gaming license, and the applications of MM Sunland Inc. and Mohit Mall for licensure to receive a percentage of revenue and licensure as sole officer, director, and shareholder as noted on the agenda. Restricted 9 is the application of Crawford Coin Inc. doing business at Green Valley Grocer number 67 for a restricted gaming license. Restricted 10 is the application of Crawford Coin Inc. doing business at Green Valley Grocer number 70 for a restricted gaming license. Restricted 11 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at 7-Eleven store 29767 for restricted gaming license. Restricted 13 is the application of Winners Gaming Inc. doing business at Extra Mile number 169 for restricted gaming license. And restricted number 14 is the application of Winners Gaming Inc. doing business at Extra Mile number 171 for a restricted gaming license.
All right, great. I don't believe there's any discussion on these items, but I'll double check with both board members first. No. All right, would either of my colleagues care to make a motion?
I will do that, Chair Morgan. I was going to take these in two with the withdrawals first. So I move to approve the withdrawals of restricted item number 1 and 2, and that these withdrawals be granted without prejudice.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Member Katsouris.
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan.
Aye.
I will then move to recommend approval of restricted agenda items number 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14 as read into the record by Secretary Bell, with the following conditions to apply as follows. For item number 3, if an equity owner is no longer functioning as a key employee for this location, a key employee application must be filed within 60 days and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position. For item 6, the surveillance system and/or mirrors must be inspected and approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Enforcement Division within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be maintained at or above the standard that is approved. For item 9, the surveillance system and/or mirrors must be inspected and approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Enforcement Division within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be maintained at or above the standard that is approved. Same thing for item 10, that the surveillance system and or mirrors must be inspected and approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Enforcement Division within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be maintained at or above the standard that is approved.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Member Katsouris.
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan.
Aye. Madam Secretary, I believe that brings us to our restricted held out items for discussion. Please read in restricted item number 4.
Restricted number 4 is the application of Veer Sohai Inc. doing business as 7-Eleven store number 38276 for a restricted gaming license, and the application of Tanveer Singh Sohai for licensure as sole officer, director, and shareholder.
Good morning, Mr. Sohai and Mr. Donato.
Good morning, Chair Morgan, members of the board, Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato here, representing the applicant, Mr. Sohi. We're before you this morning seeking approval of his application to hold the restricted gaming license for 7-Eleven store number 38276. The store has been open since July 29th and has been operating without gaming. So we're before you today seeking his approval to hold the license. Although he is asking to hold the license for the store, he has entered into a 7-year contract with Century Gaming to serve as his slot route operator. And in addition to that, he's also attended the restricted seminar on October 14th. With that, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you for that overview, Mr. Donato. Apologies for the mispronunciation, Mr. Sohi. Thank you for joining us today. I know that we have the address here, but are the cross streets, is it Washington and Martin Luther King? What are the cross streets of this location? Mr. Sohi, I'm sorry, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, it's on Martin Luther King Boulevard and Washington.
It is Washington. Okay. All right. On that, I think on that south west corner. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been involved or may have other 7-Eleven stores? We just want to hear a little bit about you. This is the first time you're seeking a gaming license.
Yes, ma'am. I came here in 2005, and as soon as I came in, I worked in 7-Eleven. So from that day, I see, anytime I had my Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and Technology from India, then I quick learner. I was very quick learner, so I learned very quick. Then after that, I realized this is the one thing I'm gonna do in my life. But it takes time, as always, dreams do come true, but it does take time and hard work. So, but I want to learn something for my education. I always have a dream that walk on the ramp with that, good coat on, apron and everything. So I did my MBA, I joined, and luckily University of Phoenix gave me opportunity to complete my MBA. Then over there, I did all A grades mostly. Then I've been elected to member for Delta Mu Delta. It is in 2013. Then after that, I completed my MBA and get my degree in 2014. Then in 2020, just recently, I get nominated by my university to get membership of NSLS, Chapter Sigma Alpha Pi. This is National Society of Leadership and Success. Mm-hmm. For MBA, after MBA, I went to, improve myself, how to do growth. So I did join Win Company. I get opportunity there as a quality assurance supervisor. Then after that, there is luckily I get chance to become a assistant manager. Then there is in Encore, it's the same company, but it's an Encore hotel. I did management position for housekeeping department. Then over there, I also manage, went through a lot of trainings, get utility manager training. So I give them days off and give them vacations off if need, warehouse manager training, also villa manager. Also at nighttime, when I'm working at nights, I run the whole building, like any housekeeping, any room, it's many hundreds, thousands rooms. So any guest issue or any security issue, they always come to me because there's only one manager at night. Okay. Then is always my dream to open a 7-Eleven when I was, in the beginning. So here I am. I mean, I explained the same thing to 7-Eleven when I went to interview. I said, when I can be, vice president one day, I can be, but this is the only one thing I want to do when I get to retire, so I can see, I did achieve my goal. So here I am.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that overview. You're definitely to be commended, not only for you and continuing to pursue your education, that was definitely well documented in our investigative report, but also just looking at your employment history, as you mentioned, I know that you used to be a sales clerk, went to get other opportunities. You just mentioned your time spent at Wynn Resorts and at Encore, clearly working your way up in those departments. And just kudos to you for starting your own business and trying to achieve your own dream, as you just mentioned. I appreciate you giving us a little bit more of a background. Other than that, I didn't have any questions. It was very clean, and I'll see if any of the other board members have any questions for you.
Good morning, Mr. Sohi. How are you?
Very good morning. I'm
Yeah,
great.
thank you. I echo Chair Morgan's comments on that. It's a great story. I did miss, you said you moved here in 2005. Was that directly to Las Vegas? Is
Yes, sir.
there something that drew you here?
Huh?
Is there a reason why you selected Las Vegas?
Actually, is my in-laws. They live here.
They live here.
My wife live here. I came from India.
Right, right. I noted that in our materials from Punjab, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Right. That's a great story. I like how you framed it. You got your bachelor's degree, you got your master's degree. It seemed as if you were working concurrently, and then you said you wanted to better yourself. It seemed as if you're probably just trying to get more job experience at that point, as opposed to necessarily bettering yourself. But I appreciate the way you framed that there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your background came back very clean. I'm really happy to hear this story. I wish you all the success. I don't have any concerns with supporting your application.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sohi, I mentioned in the report that you're working a lot of hours. How long do you think you're going to be able to sustain being there 7 days a week? Do you have any plans to scale back and maybe hire some additional staff?
Actually, is always a plan, but I really want to be in the business. So at least 40 to 50 hours, I want to be there. Yeah.
All right, well, with that, I will entertain, and I know you mentioned in your opening comments, Mr. Donato, that he's already attended the restricted seminar, but I'm assuming you're okay with the conditions as written?
I did not see the condition, sorry.
So there are two conditions there. If you don't mind me, I can jump in, Chair Morgan.
Thanks,
One
Member
has to
Smith.
do with the need to have a slot route operator contract for a period of 1 year, and the second condition had to do with completing the compliance seminar.
Yes, we are okay with those conditions.
Okay. If Chief Labadie is on the line and we've got confirmation that he's attended that, I don't know that we need to have that condition applied to it. I'd be comfortable without having it.
We can go either way. Sometimes we've left it on, sometimes we've taken it off. So whatever your preference is.
We did provide a copy of the letter, attendance letter to the agent at the time when he completed the seminar.
Okay. Well, I guess for
I'm
consistency.
fine with removing the second condition.
Okay. All right, great.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Morgan, I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 4 is read into the record by Secretary Bell, condition that prior to the issuance of the state gaming license, the licensee shall enter into a service contract with a licensed slot route operator. The term of this contract shall be for at least a 1-year period of time.
Member Johnson,
Aye.
Member Katsouris,
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'd like to thank Agent Finlayson for all her hard work on this application.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Donato.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, restricted item number 5.
Restricted number 5 is the application of Home Field LLC doing business as Home Field Bar for restricted gaming license, and the applications of Richard Peter Haviland Sparks, Michael Joseph Johnson, and Alan Eugene Weimer for licensure as member and or manager. The board for board consideration only, you also have the application of Alan Eugene Weimer for registration as a minority equity interest holder.
All right, thank you. I'll give the applicant some time to log on. Good morning, Mr. Garcia.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. Assume I've got all my applicants here.
Yeah. I see Mr.
Weimer,
Weimer.
Ellen.
And if
And
you,
there are-
for me, Mr. Garcia, just so you know, I know the other two gentlemen are previously been licensed. I know that Mr. Reamer's seeking just to apply for registration. So if you want to go ahead and give an overview, that's fine. But I do think, oh, they're logging on now. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Madam Chair, once again, Ed Garcia, the applicant, Homefield Bar LLC, doing business as Homefield Bar. This, just briefly, this is the former TGI Fridays location on Sahara. Towards the end of last year, it was being renovated and shut down. My clients who are currently, as you mentioned, 2 of the members are currently own a bar, a tavern in Las Vegas. came in, purchased it, and have basically been in a remodel, probably the worst time to start a significant remodel. I don't have to explain to you. So, but we're getting towards the end of that with, with your, obviously, hopefully with approval here today and with the city of Las Vegas. But with that, we're happy to answer any questions specific to the locations. And I know you might have some questions specific to Mr. Weimer, who, as it is, first time being licensed.
All right, thank you. Well, I don't know who would be best suited to answer, either Mr. Sparks or Mr. Johnson, but I know that location in that area has definitely gone through a lot of changes. I think there used to be a Circuit City there, and then the Fridays were there, and I know that entire area has definitely changed and grown. And so I was happy to see some investment going in there. How do you envision the business to be? I know that you're taking over what used to be a Fridays. Do you see it having kind of a sit-down dining element as well?
Yeah, we are going to have a number of booths. And if you've seen what happened at the first Sporting Life Bar, we're very proud of our food, and we are looking to kind of be a shining beacon for food in that area. So sit down dining, yes. I don't know what else.
I just didn't know if it was going to be a bar with gaming, or what type of demographic you were looking for. Were you looking for family dining, or was it more going to be focused on a sports bar and grill?
Definitely not family dining. It's definitely going to be a sports theme. But for instance, let me give you an example. This is a great example of the difference in what we're going for. Every bar has chicken wings, right? Yeah. But if you're a sports bar, you have chicken wings, of course. Well, ours come in fresh. We put them in a herbed salt for 12 hours. Then we bake them in duck fat for 6 hours, low and slow. They're ready to go. When you get them, they've been dropped in the deep fryer and they're really crispy. So you can see it's not just a matter of taking a box of frozen wings and dumping them in the deep fryer, right? We're trying to be special. So we're very proud of our food, and we really focus on our food. But no, it's going to be 21 and above, if that's your question. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I could just jump in, I don't know if you are familiar with the current Sporting Life Bar, but that's kind of it's been very successful. It's on the South Jones, and really, Mr. Johnson has mentioned it, but they've been very well received for their food. And I believe I don't know if they're the official Ohio State bar, but I know
we are official.
They do it in Las Vegas, and they have a very dedicated clientele who goes to that. And so they're trying to replicate that somewhere. Obviously, it'll be a different team. And
no, actually, it's going to be the Ohio State bar. We're going to have to find a new team for the old Sporting Life, for the one that we currently have. Yeah, they wanted to.
And I know for those games they have
packed.
I mean, it's quite the turnout. I know the former governor has been there quite a few times, Las Vegas, and so. Yep. But
he's an old Buckeye.
Thank you. So I just wanted to let that know. And Alan, Mr. Weimer can speak to this as well. He's actually at the existing location, and I know that at times they've had very significant head chefs who were kind of the menu item he just described came from the mind of an actual culinary expert from the Strip. So
great. All right, Mr. Weimer, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement at this location?
I've been in Vegas since 2001, and I run most of the front of house operations at this location. I've been in gaming bars for most of the time I've been here. Michael Johnson and I have worked together off and on for over 20 years, and I've been with the current operation since the beginning, almost 7 years ago, and they're nice enough to let me in on this next location, so I'm excited to try it.
Great. So you'll be present day to day?
Right?
You'll be present day to day at this location?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Garcia, Mr. Johnson, or Mr. Weimer?
I just wanted to ask one question. I don't recall seeing anything in our materials that referenced any violations with respect to sporting life in terms of regulatory or COVID or otherwise. So that's a good thing. I didn't have anything negative to discuss in your backgrounds. Everything looked clean there, but I just wanted to highlight that, we do have enforcement agents and agents walking around doing inspections. So continued diligence is appreciated. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Member Katsoris. Yes, they have actually had quite a bit of interaction with the gaming folks and the local enforcement folks, and every time that they've been compliant and done what they needed to do to maintain their compliance with all those imposed regulations.
Great. I just want to make sure everybody's keeping their eye on the ball still. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Member Katsaris. We definitely can't let up on the vigilance with unfortunate cases increasing. Member Johnson?
So there's been nothing at this location since the TGI Fridays closed, right?
That's correct.
All right. And then you have, what, one other location or multiple other entities?
One.
One. And so how did you arrive at the revenue projections at this location for the slots? You're going to have, looking to have 15 machines there. And how does that set of revenue projections compare with what you do at your other location?
What we are, the very simple model for that is that we used 70%, 70% of our current establishment, the current Sporting Life, 70%. As you know, it's always a guess, but after 20 years, you can make a pretty educated guess.
So, I'm a little unclear. So you base this location's projected gaming revenue on 70% of what you do at Sporting Life?
Roughly, yes. With modifications, of course.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, how do you arrive at that? Is it the clientele, the location? What factored into that projection?
Primarily location. Of course, in business, location, right? But just through experience, and it's Mr. Johnson, it is truly a guess. You simply never know until you open, but your experience gives you an idea. You can say it's probably not going to do the same amount of gaming because of the demographics of the neighborhood. It's not going to do the same amount of gaming as our current location. What percentage of our current location is it going to do? I don't know, 70%-ish. It's a good guess.
All right. And in terms of competition nearby, I haven't been in that area in a while, but on, I think that location is on the north side of Sahara.
It's on the north side of Sahara.
And so on that side of Sahara, do you have any competition in terms of restricted gaming offerings? I thought there were some locations on the south side of Sahara near you that may offer restricted gaming, but on your side, how's the competition?
Relatively close going west on Sahara. Duke, I'm sorry, Mr. Weimer, Mr. Weimer, how far down is that PTs?
The PTs is you can throw a stone there. It's across the parking lot.
So it's really close. It's not even a mile away. If you go east, you come to Moon Doggies. Is that right?
Moon Doggies is down south. It's not on Sahara.
It's not on Sahara. Can you think of any other?
To the west on the south side of the street, there's the Blue Ox. It is not too far. And going west again, you have the Sammy's Wood Fire a couple miles away. But on the north side, I don't think there's anything right there in that area other than the PT.
Did anything move into that former Good Guys location, that big box retail establishment that was there for a while?
The old Circuit City?
No, on the same side that you're on. I thought years ago there used to be a Good Guys, similar to Circuit City.
Is it you're talking about? There's a Goodwill in the parking lot there. Is that what you're talking about? The Goodwill and Habitat for Humanity?
Okay, that may have been what moved into that location. It was a pretty big box location that operated a retail store several years ago, similar to Circuit City. It was called Good Guys.
Okay.
And I know that's fairly close to where you're at. So I was just curious as to what went in there and what other, potential customers are there for you at that location based on who's nearby you.
Well, we're right next door to a large apartment complex, and we're surrounded by apartment complexes. I mean, literally their driveway is right next to us.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, good luck to you as this goes forward, and certainly wish you the best in adding this additional location. Thank you for your appearance today.
All right, gentlemen, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion.
Morgan, as it concerns restricted item number 5, I move to approve the application for registration and recommend approval of the remaining applications as read into the record by Secretary Bill.
Member Johnson,
Aye.
Member Katsouris,
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan.
Aye. Thank you. All
Thank you.
right, Madam Secretary, please read in restricted 7.
Restricted number 7 is the application of the 8 locations listed on pages 15 and 16 of the agenda to add, remove, or modify a condition pertaining to Justin Seth Moskov.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Hicks.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman. Nice to see you this morning.
Always great to see you.
Thank you. If I may take just a minute, I'm Bud Hicks with McDonald Carano. I represent Flowing Tide Pubs and Mr. Moskov. And Madam Chair, we're here today to request the removal of some conditions on Mr. Moskov's various licenses. This is a long story that goes back to 2008. I know that Mr. Johnson sat through several of our earlier matters on this, but both you and Mr. Katsaros, this is the first time I think that we've had this discussion in front of you. So if I could just quickly summarize what got us here and what we're trying to do, and then I'll introduce Mr. Moskov, who is here with me.
Yeah, Mr. Hicks, thank you. I think a summary of how we got here and would be beneficial not only for the board, but for the record, for the commission as well. So thank you. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you. Well, in 2008, well, first of all, Mr. Moskov is one of the partners in Flowing Tide Pubs, and I'm a partner in that entity with Mr. Moskov and my son-in-law. And back in 2008, they operated 2 Flowing Tide Pubs here in Reno. Mr. Moskov's background was in food and beverage and came over from TGIF Friday's operation. But at that time, he, in 2008, he was at a University of Nevada football game with some friends, and they were enjoying the game, and they were enjoying some alcohol, and they were having a good time. Then the game ended, and then after the game was over, they went over to a popular bar across the street and had a few more drinks, and one thing led to another. Mr. Moskov and his group of friends got up to leave. They called a taxi because they knew they had been drinking. So they called a taxi to pick them up. They went outside the bar. They were waiting for the cab to arrive. Well, just coincidentally, there was another group of similar UNR fans who had been pretty much doing the same thing, who had called a taxi and who came outside of the bar to wait for the taxi. One taxi arrived. Both groups claimed it. And it became sort of a push and shove situation. And Mr. Moscove took a very unfortunate matter at that time, very unfortunate action. He hit one of the members of the other group. That gentleman went down pretty hard, and he hit his head on an automobile that was there. And he was badly injured. Of course, at the time, they didn't know how bad the injuries were, but he was clearly stunned and badly injured. At that point, Mr. Moscove and his group got in the taxi and left. So he left the scene. The gentleman was badly hurt. They called paramedics, picked him up, took him to the hospital. And then the next day, Mr. Moscove was arrested by the Reno Police Department on a felony battery charge. So it was very serious. And the man, he was badly hurt. By the way, at that point, Justin called me and we self-reported it to the board. But, you know, it was clearly a serious problem for him and for the other gentleman, Mr. Morrison. Well, as it developed, Mr. Moscove was released on bail. We were keeping the board informed of the criminal proceedings as they went forward. And it took several months to work through the criminal process. He was, you know, charged, he was charged with felony battery. And it was a very serious offense. And I think that it took a little while to get to a resolution of it. And I think it was because the courts and the district attorney's office were waiting to see what the extent of the damages were to Mr. Morrison. He was injured badly, but fortunately he recovered. He was in the hospital for some period of time, but he recovered. And during this period of time, Mr. Moscove's criminal defense attorney was working with the district attorney's office to try to resolve the case. Well, it was settled, and it was settled in 2009. And the basic terms of the settlement was that the criminal indictment against him was amended to add 2 counts, the original count of felony battery, and then a second count of gross misdemeanor conspiracy to commit a battery causing substantial harm. And the deal that was cut with the district attorney's office was that Mr. Moscove would plead guilty to both offenses. The court would accept the plea to the gross misdemeanor and would hold the plea to the felony in an active file, but not accept it, not impose any penalty, and put Mr. Moscove on probation. And, you know, quite frankly, the facts of the case were, there was no intent here, but, you know, nevertheless, the person was badly hurt. And at the time, Mr. Moscove had 1 child. He was married, he had 1 child, and he had another one that was due, who was born in 2009, actually before he was sentenced. So he was supporting his family. He'd never had any criminal problems in the past. You know, he was a part owner in the 2 Flowing Tides and a very responsible person, you know, getting by and supporting his family. So when it came up in front of the district court judge, like I said, the district court judge accepted the plea on the gross misdemeanor and put him on probation and held back the guilty plea on the felony battery. And the deal was, it was structured so that if he completed his probation honorably on the gross misdemeanor, the plea on the felony battery would never be accepted by the court and would in effect be dismissed. And that's exactly what happened. Now, it took a little more than 2 years after the entry of the plea was accepted, but during that period of time, Mr. Moscove was on probation. He was reporting monthly to the Department of Parole and Probation. He had a number of conditions: no drinking, no alcohol. And additionally, the district court judge took the amount of money that was medical bills for Mr. Morrison and assessed those medical bills, those costs, against Mr. Moscove. That amount was about $274,000 and change. And additionally, the district court looked at his ability to pay it, which he didn't have that kind of money at the time, and with a growing family and all of that. So after further negotiations with the parties and with the court, he was ordered to pay $500 a month on this sum owed to Mr. Morrison. $500 a month, $274,000, quite frankly, would take about 42 years, I think we calculated, to pay it off. But anyway, at the time, starting in 2009, Mr. Moscove started making the payments and complying with the other terms and conditions of the probation. At the same time, the gaming board filed a complaint based on this, and they were monitoring what was happening in the criminal case. And we were successful in, with the board's assistance, again, you know, with an understanding that here's a man who's a family man working hard, trying to fix things, never had a problem like this before, never had a gaming problem. And the board and the commission accepted this, imposed their own conditions, basically that he comply with all the court's conditions, and that he be subject to all these requirements of, you know, no alcohol, periodic testing, etc. And that went on for a period of time after that. Mr. Moscove dutifully made the payments to Mr. Morrison, never missed a payment. In fact, he had given him some extra sums of money over and above the minimum payments at the outset. In 2011, Mr. Morrison filed a civil suit against Mr. Moscove for damages and everything else. That went on for a period of time, and by 2013, that was settled in a private settlement. Additional consideration was given to Mr. Morrison for a release of his claims. And the one last condition of that settlement was that Mr. Moscove continue to make the $500 a month payments until the sum was resolved one way or another. And he did that. He continued to make the payments. During this time, we were coming in front of the board and commission on different licenses and having effectively review sessions with the board and commission on where he was and the status, you know, how he was performing. And fortunately, he was performing well, and the board and commission granted him additional licenses. He now holds 8 restricted licenses, and he's been through the full enhanced licensing process. And again, he's not had any licensing problems personally with the gaming board. He's not had any criminal problems. Nothing of note. I think at one time he had a disturbance with his wife, but that was dismissed. And that was all reported to the board and commission and reviewed. So now we're, 12 years after the matter happened. And last fall, and I talked with Justin, we thought, well, let's approach Mr. Morrison. He had approached Mr. Morrison before several times to try to settle the amount, had been unsuccessful, but now last fall, we made another approach to Mr. Morrison and his counsel to settle the final financial obligation with him. There were negotiations and a substantial sum of money was agreed upon for payment by Mr. Morrison, which we've reported to you. And we had to go back to the state district court because that condition was still hanging out at the state district court. We had a hearing before the judge. The judge accepted the settlement, the final settlement, the final payment. And so that resolved everything. The money was paid immediately upon the acceptance and approval by the district court. So that was in, I think, May or June of this year. And at that point, we then notified the board's enforcement division because Mr. Moscove had a monthly reporting obligation of the payments being made. So we notified the board's enforcement division that there had been a private settlement negotiated between the parties. The settlement sum had been paid, and so therefore there would be no more payments being made. And the enforcement division suggested, well, we should request the board to remove these conditions that relate to that. So that's what we did. We've asked the board to remove those final conditions on Mr. Moscove relating to this. The matter is resolved. He's doing well. The Flowing Tides are doing well. And his family has grown. He now has 3 daughters. And as came out during the status hearings, his youngest daughter, who was not born at the time of the incident, but his youngest daughter is a child diabetic and So he had all those pressures on him. And thankfully, Dr. Alamo sort of became he took an interest in this case because of his medical training and was really following it. But the board and commission understood the circumstances. So here we are today to try to clean this thing up once and for all with the board and the commission, take these conditions off and allow him to go forward. You may recall that last month he was on your agenda for the 8th location, the parlor, and no mention of the conditions were made at that time. So with that, if I may turn it over now to Mr. Moscove, and because of the way this is set up, I have to get up and exchange places with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Good morning, Mr. Moscove.
Hello. Do I look into this?
You're fine.
Okay. Thank you guys for hearing this. I know it's been a long time. Board Member Johnson, it's been a long time with you. But yeah, Bud and I have been talking about this, and I just called Bud the other day and we were talking how that situation that happened, the event back in 2008, has really changed a lot, like my path in life. So, you try to look at the good in everything, but I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Moscove, for appearing. I didn't know if either board member had some questions. I had more of comments based on what Mr. Hicks just shared. It looks as though you were successful, obviously, in getting an individual settlement with the victim at the time. We have all of the documents that were filed with the local district court up in Washoe to resolve your kind of criminal pending obligations there as well. And I just wanted to confirm, it's maybe a better question for Mr. Hicks, but this approval this recommended approval to remove this condition and consideration going forward to the commission would be the last legal hurdle that you would have to cross in order to resolve all of the pending legal obligations as a result of that incident in 2008. Is that accurate? Okay.
Okay.
Either board member have any questions for Mr. Moscove or Mr. Hicks?
I didn't have a question, but I'll comment and thank Mr. Hicks for his comprehensive overview and summation of where we have come over the last several years, and so I appreciate Mr. Hicks and that information. For Mr. Moscove, it's certainly been a journey. I've watched you over the years, and throughout you have been continually responsive and responsible for the journey that was embarked upon. But it certainly appears more than ripe as a time to turn the page, if not just close the chapter outright altogether on this. So I appreciate the work that you have done over the years, and you've remained steadfast and committed to your business and committed to your family and committed to accepting responsibility in this matter and bringing these items to some resolution, some equitable resolution from the appearances of things. So I wanted to commend you for how you have interacted with the board over the years and how you've handled yourself and your responsibilities, and certainly wish you the best as you go forward. All the best. Thank you.
If I just talked, is it? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm new to this Zoom. But no, thank you guys. Thank you for everything over the years. Like, it's been a tough battle, but 12 years, a long time. You want Bud back in?
No, actually, if you could just sit there for a second. I just wanted to address this a bit as well. This is, I was familiar with your personal issues on this matter for some time as a matter of the public, firstly, and then, of course, I've come across this information several times since I've been on the board here for the last, 18 months or so. I do appreciate the overview your counsel gave Mr. Hicks. It was very comprehensive. Seems he lived it partially as well, because you could see just how clearly he understood every detail and finer fact of the circumstances there. I read through materials on this before, but he really helped clear some of the fuzziness for me up. I know it was a difficult time for everybody involved in this, but I do appreciate you appearing now. Again, as I've mentioned, I've seen you appear on this matter before. I didn't have any other questions for you, other than it looks like, you know, you've turned the page on all of this, and I don't personally have any concerns with moving forward and supporting your application in this regard. I do have a question for your counsel, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Yes, Mr. Latsalons.
thanks again, Mr. Hicks.
Uh-huh.
You had mentioned removal of conditions as in plural.
Yeah.
The application before us right now is the removal of a condition. I just want to make sure we're on the same page with that.
Well, we are, but I would state that I see that on the application, they referred to the original settlement date, which was October 5, 2010. That was the original settlement of the control board's matter. It's been in front of the board and commission several times, and the conditions were last stated by the commission on November 5, 2013. And it was in this same case matter, NGC 09-14. But the November 5 meeting, it's not quite as clear. I mean, what they say, I'll read the conditions to you because there's several things covered. In section 2A of the November 2013 restatement, it says the respondent shall certify to the board in writing by the end of each calendar quarter that he is in compliance with the minimum monthly restitution payments to Jens Morrison as required pursuant to this settlement. And B, upon request by the board chairman or his or her designee, respondent shall provide any additional evidence requested supporting his compliance with the terms of this settlement. The order goes on to state that in addition to those conditions as imposed by the commission on October 18, 2012, respondent shall remain free from consuming alcohol or drugs. B, respondent shall continue to make restitution payments. And C, respondent shall remain free from arrest and immediately report any criminal charges to the board. So I think that the conditions that we're asking to be removed are all of the conditions relating to the restitution payments to Mr. Morrison and the reporting of that, because there will be no need for reporting in the future. As for the other conditions, I believe they remain. We didn't ask for their removal at this time. They haven't been applied in some of the situations by the commission in the later license matters. So to the extent they're still out there, they would still be active. That would be remain free of consuming alcohol or drugs and remain free from arrest and immediately report any criminal charges to the board.
Mr. Hicks, just for clarification,
Yes.
You referenced a settlement agreement from November 5th, 2013.
Well, that's on your agenda, Madam Chair.
Right. No, I'm looking. Well, in our files, we have a second revised stipulation for settlement and order dated October 5th, 2010. Is that the most?
Well, that's like I said, this has been modified several times as we came through on different license applications. So I think that technically the last order of the commission was the November 5, 2013 order. And it has these provisions in there relating to the restitution. So, you know, regardless of, I mean, it's been discussed and addressed by the commission on several events, but you know, what we're trying to do is remove the conditions here relating to the restitution payments.
Understood. Mr. McGaugh, I'm a little hesitant to, we only have one condition that's explicitly listed to remove, and I'm personally fine with removing conditions related to the restitution payments, but a little hesitant to kind of have a potential motion phrased that way without having a language before us. Are there other requirements in the most recent settlement agreement signed by the commission that would apply beyond anything related to restitution payments?
There are conditions in the settlement agreement that he has to continue to follow. This deals with the conditions that actually made it to the license itself.
Okay.
So we're dealing here with, as far as I know, Mike Labadie could correct me, but I believe this is the only relevant condition that actually appears on the license that needs to be removed at this time.
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay, so
The
Mr.
settlement
Hicks,
agreement, all the other conditions in the settlement agreement would have to remain, and he would have to deal with the commission on removing those directly.
okay. Okay. So Mr. Hicks, it's based on council's representation and Chief Labadie's, this is the only condition that's actually tied to the license itself. I'm sure you heard what Mr. McGaugh said.
Yeah.
Any issues with that, or?
No, we have no issues with that.
Okay. All right, well then I'm sorry, Member Katsaros, did you have something else?
Yeah, so for clarity, it is just this one condition then in our materials before us that we're dealing with.
Well, it's the one condition, Mr. Katsaros, but the condition is spelled out in different ways in this latest restatement of it.
Okay, and so you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I don't have a concern with moving forward in this fashion. I just want to make sure I craft a proper motion so that I don't inadvertently make a motion that is more expansive than what I intend. So at this point, my motion would be something crafted along the lines of anything to remove these specific conditions relating to restitution concerning Justin Seth Moscow. I'm looking at Senior Dag McGaugh. He's nodding, so I assume that would be sufficient.
In my opinion, that would be fine.
Okay. Your opinion's the only one that matters to me right now.
Me too.
Okay, all right, well, with that, Mr. Hicks, I just wanted to also comment on the fact that Member Johnson's comments, just being here and hearing about this case over the span of years, and his positive comments to Mr. Muscove also carry some weight with me, in addition to the fact that I know you've not only consistently informed the enforcement division of the progress of the restitution payments, but the investigations division as well. And I know that you mentioned he did have an expanded investigation due to his number of locations going to 8. So with that, I'm comfortable supporting this request to remove this condition, and we'll entertain a motion.
Thank you for that. I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 7 as read into the record by Secretary Bell, which would remove the specific conditions relating to restitution concerning Justin Seth Moscow.
Member Johnson,
Aye.
Member Katsaros,
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And Chairwoman Morgan, I wish to thank you for all of your courtesies in the past. I'm sorry to see you leave, but best of luck to you in your new position.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Right, Madam Secretary, restricted 12.
Restricted number 12 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at Living the Good Life for a restricted gaming license.
Right, I think we have Miss Richardson here and Miss Roher.
Mute. Hi, can
We're okay, you're on.
okay, can you, oh, there I go. Oh, great.
Yes.
My
Let's,
first time at this.
That's
Okay,
fine.
hi.
Yeah, we can see and hear you, Miss Rohr. Let's give Miss Richardson a little bit of time to, here she is, and she's joined as well. All right, both of you ladies are on.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Debbie Richardson with Century Gaming Technologies. The item before you is that of living the good life. And also, as you've seen on with me today, is Gina Rohr. She is the owner and operator of the location. We do understand that the board has some questions and concerns regarding the tax lien and issues she has been dealing with. Ms. Rohr is prepared to talk to you about those. And I do believe you also have copies or have been told that she has recently, as of October 16th, made a significant payment towards those items. And she can further address, what the circumstances were that, got her in that position. And also she can talk to you regarding her payment plan, what was going on with the payment plan, and how she intends to handle this going forward. We know that you have a balance that you're looking at of 9,000, and I'm not certain exactly what it is, 9,000 something. However, she has been in communication with the Nevada Department of Taxation, and she does not necessarily believe that that is the exact amount. She is waiting for an invoice from them, and at which time she intends to pay that in full, which would set her completely clear and hopefully remove the lien so that she can move forward with this. So I know she's having a little difficulty this morning with her issues, with her video, and I'm hoping that she can talk to you.
Okay. Yeah, we're here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Rohr, did you want to get to a place where?
Yes, I'm sorry. I have to plug my phone in. It just gave me a low battery sign. Give me just a moment. That was all. I was just grabbing my cord. Sorry. Okay. All right, give me just one moment. All right, looks like we're squared away here. All right. So I'm here to answer any questions that you need of me.
Well,
can you
Ms.
see me?
We can see you. Did you hear what Ms. Richardson said about your explaining to the Gaming Control Board a little bit about your business, the circumstances that led you to getting a tax lien in the first place, and what the current status of that lien is and payment plan?
Yes. Okay. So the original reason that this occurred is my mother was my bookkeeper coming into the business. We've had 14, my family's had 17 businesses, bar and restaurants throughout the San Francisco Bay Area and 3 here in Northern Nevada. This one is mine, myself. My father's had a few. And my mother became ill in 2015 or 16 and was hospitalized numerous times, and my books got behind. And during that time, my husband moved away. I became a single mother for a little while here, and I just had a lot on my plate. That's how I got behind. Then there was circumstance with the street closures in Carson City. They closed the streets. So our business sort of dipped for quite a little bit. What I can say is that I have been in constant communication with taxation always. I've always filed my taxes timely, even if the payments were not available in my funding at the time. I always have filed, and I've kept a direct line of communication with them. I originally was who approached for a payment plan and have been on that payment plan for over 4 years. The payment was $410 and I made that payment regularly. Our records indicate that I should be paid off, and their records indicate a little bit something different. But as of mid-October, I was given a statement of what I owed, and I paid that in full. Mr. Brian Smithwick had sent us a statement, and what I owed previous for those years was $7,529.30. I wrote that check within 10 days of receiving this statement, along with current payments through June. I am now just awaiting some information for them for July and August. I've made my current tax payment this month, and I'm waiting for a statement so that we have a check and balance system with them directly. When we were going through this, the communication between us was a little bit difficult because there was an improper application of my checks. They had my payment plan checks were posted to somebody else's account. 4 or better, 5 I know for sure. So we've had some back and forth about where my funds have gone, and I do have on record with canceled checks with your investigator over $14,000 to $15,000 in payments to them in payment plan, and including my regular tax payments.
Okay. And so you shared there was documentation or something from the Nevada Department of Taxation acknowledging that those payments were misapplied or
Yes.
given to a different account? Okay.
Yes, and I believe your investigator has that information. My bookkeeper has been in constant contact with them, and yes, he stated there was five of them misplaced into somebody else's account, and that's why it took so long for him to get us this number into October. We've been asking for quite a little while to clear this matter up completely, and it took him a little while to investigate where our numbers weren't matching up.
Okay.
And
you made a fairly large payment at the end of October, and so it's your belief then that you should be completely
absolutely
paid off this thing.
Yes, except for July and August. July and August were not on this statement that he has given me, and with all of the confusion, I want an exact number from him, and I will pay that exact number. I do have the funds to do so and plan on doing so immediately when he gives me an exact number. So we are on the same page moving forward. And I did pay my current taxes this morning. This week.
Okay. So just for clarification for the record, we have our investigative documents reflect that there's a current balance of $9,618.95. You're in the process, not necessarily of disputing it, but clarifying that due to the July and August numbers.
Correct.
And regardless of the amount, you're able to pay it off.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and absolutely.
All right. And just to confirm for this location, Ms. Richardson, this is a space lease. So this is not sharing in revenue, correct?
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Any questions from either board members?
All right. So the figure that the chair just mentioned, I think it was $9,618 as a balance due. Is that similar to what you would understand to be the balance in Ms. Rohr?
Not at this time. I believe what I owe is for July and August of this year, which comes to a little less than $4,000. I believe that $10,500 in change I just paid them has not gone up the chain of command at this moment because of the COVID issues. I do know that taxation has not been in the office for about a week because they had a case in the office. I think paperwork is waiting to catch up with one another, and we are doing our due diligence to make sure that we're all on the same page. If this comes back as a true number, once again, I do have the funds to pay them, but the numbers that they gave me mid-October of $7,529.30. That was my understanding of my back taxes up until the closures in COVID.
Right,
so the new number is something I'm going to continue to communicate about.
All right, and so the figure that was communicated in October of $7,529, that does not reflect any payments that you've made since then, or does it include?
I made that pay. I made it a little over $10,500 with this information that I received mid-October. So the amount that you guys have just come up with $9,000 has not been yet communicated to me.
If I might interject, Member Johnson, so the $7,000 was partial. She made a total payment of over $10,000. There were 2 separate payments. Her understanding was that would have made her completely caught up as of July 1 or the end of June. She understands she owes for July and August. That's where her understanding of, $9,000. It's not quite clear to her where that's coming from, because she did believe the payment on October 16th would have caught her up through the end of June, leaving her payments of July and August still needing to be made. And then again, if there was any taxes and penalties associated with that, she understood that, that would also have to be, that would have to be paid as well. So that's why she's wanting to work with the Department of Taxation to hammer out that number and make sure she pays, and that she can get a statement that she is paid in full, as she did pay October of this year has been paid. So she should be, once she makes that final July, August payment, she should be completely paid in full.
All right, so why would there have been a payment made in October that did not include the amounts from July and August, if that was the case?
Because those payments would have been incurred late, and I want to get an exact number if they are. I understanding there's a moratorium on interest and penalties. I just want, because of the payments not being applied properly in the past, I want an exact number to write them an exact check. We did file for those months, but we were waiting on the statement. The statement only followed through June that I received in October. I would have thought that it would have followed up through July and August, because the statement was just received in mid-October. So in that was not included, I paid exactly what they said, and I'm asking for another statement so that I can pay exactly the dollars that they're at, the dollar amount that they're asking. Whether or not that includes penalties and interest is what is left to be asked of them.
All right, but do I understand from your statements a few moments ago that I think the lowest amount that would be about $4,000?
Correct, and I'm prepared to pay that at any time.
Okay, and when was the last communications you had with someone from the Department of Taxation?
So my bookkeeper, I believe, talked to Brian Smithwick day before yesterday, and to make sure that he received my my payment this month. And his response was he was not allowed to back in the office until yesterday, Wednesday, and that he would be receiving the check and applying it, and then giving her numbers for July and August.
And do you know when that is to occur?
I would believe with it before the end of the week or the beginning of the week. We are constantly communicating with him, and they've just had a little bit of trouble getting back to us, I think, during the shutdown. Okay, so this is just a little bit of a unique scenario here, because the tax issue needs to be cleaned up. It's just not something comforting to make a favorable recommendation on without having a clear and accurate understanding on my part as to what the obligations are and the steps that have been taken to satisfy those obligations. And you're the business operator, you're not the applicant. Technically, you're not really before us for an approval, but it's difficult for me to recommend an approval given the uncertainty that exists with regards to these tax obligations. I'm just wondering, since it sounds like you have since retained someone to do your accounting for you now. Yes, I have a great bookkeeper now, and we have been current all the way up until COVID. Everything has been current in my payment plans. I've been making I've had a payment plan with them for over 4 years, and the payments of $410, and I've made them regularly and current all the way up until March. Right, and these were all sales tax obligations, right? Yes, yes, and I got behind during those couple of years when I had the illness in the family and the decline in business because of the street closures for better of a year. But I've been making constant payments on time with taxation for over 2 years, and I've also been current with my payment plan. And all I've asked for in the last month or so is a final payment, because I want to pay them completely. I have the funds to pay them completely, and I'm just waiting on them getting numbers to me. All right. And so, as I said, there are a lot of things going on here in terms of the inception of this obligation.
the fact that these were sales tax obligations, these are monies that you collected on behalf of the state, but did not remit to the state. So it's not like you would have had to have gone into some reserve fund or some other available monies to satisfy your obligations to the state. These are monies that you would have collected from customers with the intent of remitting to the state, and those monies were not remitted to the state.
Yeah, there was some difficulties during that 2-year period, and once again I filed every single month so that I did not evade in any way. I filed every single month, and I got behind and started a payment plan, and the payment plan has been ongoing and my commitment has been met consistently for over 4 years on the payment plan that they gave me, and I pursued a payment plan with them and they agreed, and I've been doing that for 4 years. If the checks that your investigator has that anybody could look into, I believe I have satisfied my debt. My original debt was $9,000 and I have exceeded $27,000 in payments in payment plan, above and beyond my regular sales tax payments that I have had current for over 2 years. So I've been making my sales tax currently for 2 years. There's not been any, because if you don't make your sales tax payment currently, then your payment plan is null and void. So I have been making everything. I've been doing everything that was asked of me from them. And then just during this COVID situation, I've asked for a payoff amount because I want to pay them in full. I want to get this behind me. I'm not a person that would evade in any way. There was a blip in my history, but that is not my current situation, nor has it been for the last 2 years. I've paid currently for 2 years, both payment plan.
Is there anything that would prevent you or preclude you from at least making a payment of $4,000 now?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I could make that this afternoon. I mean, absolutely not. I just, because of the previous misplaced payments with them, once again, with my payment plan, to get the numbers that we have gotten right now, they had to find payments that they had put in somebody else's account during my due diligence in paying my payment plan. They accounted for my payments into somebody else's account. And that was at least 5 payments that they know of. And that is in writing. They did give that to my bookkeeper, that they have lost 5 of my payments and had to find them before he could give me a number. So we've been going back and forth on the numbers. The only reason this $4,000 is outstanding is when I want to get the exact number and give them the exact amount of money, so we do not have any confusion moving forward, because I want all of this tax behind me, and I do have the funds. And yes, sir, I could pay that today as long as I had the numbers correctly. And the only reason that I'm waiting on that is, once again, they've previously not applied my checks properly to my account.
All right, I don't want to take up too much more time, but I'll just finish with this. If you're in the dark about what the status of the obligations are, imagine where that leaves me in terms of being able to review and assess this application and the degree to which creditors, not necessarily of the applicant or the licensee, have been satisfied, but of the business operator, which I think would stand in the place of the licensee in terms of obligations to a creditor, the Department of Taxation. If you're in the dark as to the true status of your responsibilities and payments, that leaves me even more so in the dark.
Well, I'm not in the dark. I'm in communication with them. So as of today, Mr. Smithwick has not been able to be in the office for 7 days because of COVID. So we paid this amount in full. I paid my current taxes of $1,780 on the 31st, and those 2 payments in the middle. All our misunderstanding here that could arise is there penalties and interest that are owed, so that I can make that payment in its completion and it be applied properly.
Yeah, and I understand the difficulty with dealing with the government agencies during this time as well. So
I have the funding to pay them. I have the money to pay them, and I will as soon as I just get a communication from them. I do have the funds to pay them, and that is my absolute intention.
And I can understand you not wanting to overpay them.
This
Correct.
is being transcribed, Mr. Rohr, so let Member Johnson finish the question and then you can
I
answer. What's being
apologize.
transcribed, and by Zoom, it's a little more difficult. So I just wanted to make sure he
apologize.
gets the question out.
I'm
if he
sorry,
wants.
sir.
And I can understand you not wanting to overpay them, certainly. But as I said, it sounds like you are at least in agreement as to what a minimum amount would be. And that could go some way in terms of showing satisfaction of the outstanding obligations. I mean, I'm going by what I'm hearing here because, for example, that correspondence that you received from taxation that said 5 payments were misapplied, has that information been furnished to the agent on your case?
I believe so. Teresa? Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I do know so. Yes, I know so. We've been in communication, and that we've been back and forth. She's been fabulous. Your investigator has been fabulous because, like I said, there's been a lot of back and forth, and we've communicated quite regularly throughout this as well. And she understands sort of the difficulty that I've had with taxation getting back to me with numbers. But like I said, as soon as I received the first statement, I had the payment to their office within 5 days. And I could, like I said, I could pay it today if that was your wishes. I'm just wanting to make sure that we're getting our their needs met, and this is complete and behind me when I do, because I'm paying currently now, and I just want these other 2 payments to be appropriated and to move on. This will never be something that I go through again. It's been very, very daunting.
I understand. All right, thank you.
All right, what I would like to do is take a brief 5-minute recess. I'm going to see if we can get some confirmation about the misapplication of your payments.
Okay.
I do want to take action, though, at least a recommendation on this item today, for a couple of reasons. One, I do think the applicant before us is Century. It's a space lease, and I think we can definitely get some documentation prior to the commission meeting. But just so we can at least have some additional information, I don't see any harm in taking a brief recess and seeing if we can get confirmation about your misapplied payment. So we'll go back on the record at 10:25 a.m. Thanks.
And we will be live once again in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. All right, it's 10:26 a.m. We'll go back on the record for item number restricted at number 12. So I just contacted our investigations division. And I don't know if Ms. Allen or Mr. Labadie wanted to confirm, but Ms. Rohr, we were informed that your bookkeeper did let our agent know that the actual payments were misapplied, however, has not been independently confirmed from taxation, but not due to necessarily lack of trying, I think just because of some of the circumstances you mentioned. Is that accurate, Mr. Labadie?
That's correct. Yeah, they have informed us that the payments were misapplied, but we haven't been able to confirm it independently, and we're working on that though.
Okay. So at this time, it would be, I'm of the opinion of moving forward, but having, I would strongly recommend, Ms. Rohr, that you get that in order prior to the commission meeting, which is going to be in a couple of weeks. It's information that should be readily available. And if this is something, obviously this application is something, even though you're not the applicant, it's important to you. And what you've already shared with us on the record, obviously is public, and hoping that what is confirmed is actually correlates with what you've shared with us today. But I'm of the opinion that a lot of this could be easily rectified in the next couple of weeks. So I'm hoping you're able to kind of push forward and do that. Our agents will definitely do the same prior to the commission meeting. And as you know, they can choose not to have this matter be heard if that documentation does not meet the chair or the commission's satisfaction. So I am willing to entertain a motion.
And I'm willing to provide one here. Chair Morgan, I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 12 as read into the record by Secretary Bell.
Member Johnson?
I did get a chance to comment, so I did want to just comment, Ms. Rohr, and underscore the importance of presenting some concise, clear documentation by the time this matter goes to the commission. It's important that we have a clear record on which to proceed, and it would be with considerable difficulty for them, I would anticipate, to act on what might have been paid, what was paid, but we didn't get back. I understand not all of that is your fault, but it's not our fault either. And so we really do need to have a clear set of facts available to us and steps demonstrating your efforts to resolve this and communications with the Department of Taxation. And so please take this time period over the next week or two by the time the commission meets to work very diligently with the Gaming Control Board agent to your case so that a clear, full picture can be relayed to the commission for which then to act upon. So with that, I will vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you.
Member Katsouras?
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan?
Aye. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
that
you
brings
very,
us-
very much. And I'd just like to, again, to thank Teresa for working so closely with me on this matter, and I will continue to do so. She's been very, very helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Rohr. All right, Madam Secretary, that brings us to our casino player dispute appeal pursuant to NRS 463-363. Madam Secretary.
You have one casino player dispute appeal. The hearing examiner recommends the agent's decision denying payment be affirmed. That item is Consuelo Rivera versus Arizona Charlie's Boulder.
Thank you. And I've reviewed the hearing examiner's recommendation and I'm prepared to also recommend that it be affirmed, but is there any board discussion on this item?
And I agree with that as well.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Morgan, for my final motion with you as chair, I will move to affirm the decision made by the hearings examiner denying payment to the petitioner in the matter of case number 2020-7363L, appearing on today's agenda.
Thank you, Member Gutierrez.
Member Johnson? Member Katsouras?
Aye.
Chairwoman Morgan?
Aye. All right, and that brings us to our last agenda item, public comment.
Chairwoman Morgan, sorry to interrupt. Member Johnson's vote didn't get recorded verbally on the record. So if you could, was it a affirmative?
Yes, I said aye.
Yeah, and well, it was cut off. So I just want to make sure it's clear on the record. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. Keeping us on the straight and narrow. All right, Madam Secretary, brings us to our last agenda item, public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming related matters. We did not receive any public comments.
All right, well, thank you all very much. This is my last meeting. I just wanted to give a truly heartfelt thank you. I'm incredibly grateful for all of the board agents and staff and employees at the Gaming Control Board. You're the reason why we continue to be such a first-class regulatory body. And I don't know what's going on in Carson, but with that, I was going to adjourn our November meeting. Thank you all.
Chair
Have a
Morgan.
great day.
Thank you.